people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
USGS did it to me. NASA is doing it to you-know-who. There is a connection in my opinion. But not a be-all end-all connection that is being presented by the guy claiming to be 100% correct in all his earthquake predictions. Normal 6.0 M activity is 2 to 3 per week, and about 17.0 M per month. We're on track for that steady movement. Also, the EQs that have been happening. Most of the 6.0 Ms are at volcanic locations, which this person, who is issuing the 100% claim about a solar earthquake connection to every earthquake greater than a 6.0 whenever a solar flare occurs, or a coronal hole faces Earth or a CME erupts or a filament ruptures. This person doesn't take into account the normal Earth movement occurring at these locations. The problem with the above sun activity being blamed for EQ activity. There is always either a coronal hole, CME, filament rupture or a solar flare every 7 days. So to then come back and say there's an earthquake during this watch period and the watch period includes all of the above criteria, then any earthquake greater than a 6.0 M could be attributed to the sun, because the criteria set are field-proof. I've noticed when there were 1 or less 6.0 Ms during this person's watch period, they then dismiss it as being quiet but still claiming their forecast to be correct, because there was at least one 6.0 M during the 1 week period. There would need to be 4 or more in a week for it even to be abnormal. Try something like 5 to 7 for it to be an uptick caused by an outside source. There is a case to be made for a Sun magma Earth's core connection. Maybe even a Sun volcano connection as evidenced by the daily activity, when the sun rises and sets. Just look at Yellowstone to see the sunrise to sunset EQ activity. It shows everywhere when the sun's light hits the Earth. EQ activity rises. There was a study released at the end of 2011, talking about the chances of an earthquake in California statistically are. There is a better chance of EQs from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. than noon to 1 p.m. Hardly any activity. Then from 1 p.m. sunset the chances increase dramatically. So, if you live in California per this study's own wording, lunchtime is the safest time to be free from a large EQ. Morning or afternoon are the times of most past large quakes. This coincides with the Yellowstone charts, the Bayou Corn charts. So, ultimately, what does this all mean? It means that the solar connection is not well studied, and is hit or miss at best. For this person we are talking about to claim 100% success rate at predicting earthquakes, it's downright wrong, I know. Because there is always something happening on the Sun-Earth facing. Every 7 days. It's just too much to nail it down as being the sun or a coronal hole or a CME or a solar flare. Or even sometimes all of the above at once. In 2011 for instance, several X-class flares, with accompanying CME, also several coronal holes Earth-facing. Yet no major earthquake at the time. Then we have other large EQs or upticks of even 6.0 Ms. And no Earth-facing flare, or CME. As for coronal holes, there are always some form of coronal magnetic minimum and maximum areas Earth-facing. Is there a connection overall? Yes. Is it a connection that one can forecast via coronal hole solar flare monitoring? No. The people pushing this need to be honest with themselves about the times that EQs happen when no event is Earth-facing occurring. And also they need to be aware a lot of the earthquakes they are reporting 6.0 M plus are at volcanic areas. And finally they need to be aware that they are cherry-picking the 6.0 M readings. Hate to keep on going here, but it must be said. This person and their main viewers, they are cherry-picking these 6.0 M readings. Have you noticed they always go with the largest reading, from whatever agency they can find that gives it? For instance, today, USGS reported a 5.8 M near South Japan. However, these people went to the European agency and selected a feed reading that shows a momentary magnitude of 6.0 M. Conversely, I've seen these same people, when a 6.0 m was reported on the USGS, and reported as a 5.7 m on the European agency. They picked the USGS reading to go with. The reason they are trumping up readings is because in order for their earthquake sun hypothesis to be accurate, they set a 6.0 m threshold, to make things a bit more dramatic in the sun-earth connection. Why? Because 5.0 m and 4.0 m are much less dramatic. 5.0 m's are equally as devastating as 6.0 m's. Just ask the people of Christchurch, New Zealand. Over and out. Done analyzing it.
Folks, Starwater in the news again. This time for the snub as NASA watches beautiful ice cloud vortices over Titan's South Pole. Well, despite what just came out of my mouth, the word water is not found in any of their releases on the topic, despite mentioning all the other hypothesized compounds. I'd like to remind them that Cassini did find large oceans of water just beneath the icy surface of this moon of Saturn. I'd also like to share this. I was told by a reputable former insider that someone was about to definitively debunk my earthquake factors, and if this was that attempt, let's all laugh to the bank. This paper is stating that solar activity alone, sunspots, CMEs, geomagnetic activity, does not trigger large earthquakes. FYI, you can prove that same thing with just the last 20x flares, geomagnetic storms, and proton events. I could have done this analysis at age 15, but you might be asking, where are the planets? Why do they not mention coronal holes? And if they did, would they just blanket the coronal hole list atop the frame without regard for size, position, or the umbral fields? Congratulations to every one of you yesterday who correctly shredded this barely undergrad level paper in almost my exact words. First off, this is the second polar quake in a week, and I don't mean the Arctic Circle shaking called out at this channel for 2 years, I mean like North Pole, North Pole. Canary Islands going the other way, this time without major swarming or significant magnitude. We have a growing lava dome, avalanches, and minor eruptions in Mexico, and then the top quake, a 6.0 struck Japan that is going to be discussed for two reasons today. First, it occurred during another M flare, an M3.3, which will fuel causation speculation across the net. I wouldn't get excited, this is way rare, but it is not like we haven't seen that before. Second reason for discussion is that this is the second 6-pointer later downgraded by the USGS in 3 days. When the rest of the world agrees at 6.0, they've still got the red bar across the quake indicating it registered as significant despite their downgraded magnitude given here. The rest of the agencies across the planet still show 6.0. Eyes open. No fear, it's 6:25 a.m. Eastern Time, and that's the news.